show up, so it might ask you about artwork and stuff in that time period. What I'll probably try to do is I'll try to find it on the internet and pop it up for you if I can find it. If not, we'll just drive on and just go through the other questions and stuff. So we have a guest here today. She's keeping me here to keep track of me, make sure I'm not in trouble. She's only going to stay a little while. She made all the tests up for you, so she was doing all the copying. So, taking notes. Are you kidding me? You're going to videotape this whole thing, aren't you?
If I have enough room, yeah.
You're going to run out of room.
I have like 5 gigabytes of space. We'll see.
All right. If you got, I'm not gonna go through and have you. I wouldn't say you have to jot down a lot of notes, but this actually is a real helpful chart on the comparison and contrast stuff of the Middle Ages. You may have done this, so if you have it out, I'm walking talking through it. You may have it already in your notebooks. So, whoever's eating a sandwich, it smells good. All right. So
I was hoping you'd have dinner for us.
Huh?
I was hoping you'd have dinner for us.
You did? I'm not that nice of a guy. Sorry. Okay, with the AP test, when you get there, it isn't going to ask you about the Middle Ages. You're not going to get questions specific to the Middle Ages, but you are going to get questions about how the Renaissance was different from the Middle Ages. So the most important part is knowing what the Middle Ages was about and how it changes when we get to the Renaissance, all right? So I'm going to go through and look at basically each of these things on the chart. Again, I think you probably have them in your book because I know we talked about it earlier in the semester or in the year. And just kind of talk to you about the differences between how this small group, remember, small group of upper level educated nobles basically saw the, had kind of made some changes, all right? First of all, why did the Renaissance take place in Florence, Italy, and Venice, and Milan, and some of these why Italy? Go ahead.
Because they had the money and they had like the people that were willing to like patronize the arts and all that good stuff.
Okay. Where did that money come from? Do you guys know? Trade. All right. What major events made the Italian city-state so wealthy and powerful, and some of these families? There was a couple major events going back to the Middle Ages. Remember?
Didn't they have like the only banking or like the first banking system?
That was part of it, but even something provided that to be developed. And this is where we didn't get into a lot into the Middle Ages, so I'm going to give you a little history. The Crusades, all the Crusaders from Europe stopped in Italy on their way to the Middle East to fight the Crusades. And so shipbuilding and trade and those guys and basically all that cash from Europe found its way to Italy. And it's one of the reasons the banking started and the trade started there. And so it became very powerful families. These Italian city families are.
And then the Crusades kind of opened up trade with like Asia again.
Yep, and all that wealth going back and forth all stopped in those port cities in Italy. And that's really why Italy and then eventually Northern Europe will become very powerful or very wealthy is because of the trade and the trade cities. Okay? All right, getting this down? All right, it's Mike. Matt, you with me? All right, I'm just checking. He's playing a video game there. All right. I am not, hey, this is review, so it's your own time. You do it if you want. If you want to go into a zone.
Do you have any like paper?
Yeah, I'll do it.
You can have some, you can have a notebook.
If you want something to jot stuff down, you can do that. Okay. Okay. Well, guys, this is a review, so it's, for some of you, you might want to jot things down. Other people just listen and take it in. And I'm not going to treat it like a class where I'm going to browbeat you. It's on you if you want to listen. If you want to play soccer in the back row. All right, just don't do it with the real burden, all right? All right, so Middle Ages, I'm just going to go through this real quick and kind of review with you.
Thank you.
When we look at education, the difference really in the Middle Ages is we talked about Thomas Aquinas, one of the first famous educators. He was a monk. Basically, he promotes the concept of what they call scholasticism. And that scholasticism basically was to teach, education through the Christian church. And I guess that's what most of your Middle Ages type of learning is going to be about. When we get to the Renaissance, the philosophy of thought, at least amongst that upper echelon of people, is a focus on humanism, and that's a big difference between the two. You got an emphasis on secular concerns, what's happening on here now with the planet, things like that. And then basically Greco-Roman culture, which we talked about. Both generations, or both time periods, the ideal during this time period in the Middle Ages, man is well versed in one subject, and basically he also knows how to get to heaven, and that's going to church and following the rules of the church. The ideal for the Renaissance, what they believed that people should strive for, was being a Renaissance person, well-rounded. Castilian, remember, he wrote Castilian wrote The Courtier, thank you, and then basically was able to kind of give us a vision of what they thought was the ideal at that time. Okay, so again, going through kind of quick. Literature, again, this should be easy stuff, based almost solely on religion, written in Latin, which is, we've talked about that. The church was the patron of arts and literature, so much of the art and literature that time period is going to be church-based. Very little political criticism, and it's all handwritten. And if you guys have ever seen some of the scribe work from that time period, you can kind of see how the manuscripts and stuff were written. And I think your textbook shows you some samples of that. Humanism, secular in nature. Again, the literature of the time, especially in the Northern Renaissance. I don't think you get as much literature in the Southern Renaissance or Italian Renaissance as you do the Northern. And the people in the North, Petrarch, father of humanism, and Bascio, both of them were wrote in the vernacular, wrote in their local languages about religion, issues, politics, human events, stuff like that. Covered a wide variety of subjects, politics, art, short stories, big focus on the individual, and then an increased use of the printing press, and in a way of kind of a form of propaganda. You might want to stop that for a second.